Good morning, everybody. It's about 10:01 by my time. I'll do a short introduction here and we'll kind of get rolling, and other folks might join us as we get started. As a note to begin, this is going to be recorded, so this will be available after the fact for anybody that wasn't able to attend today, and can certainly check through the information before the program goes live in a couple weeks. My name is Rachel Brown. I'm the Economic Development Manager here at the City of Elk Grove. Today's webinar is going to discuss the guidelines and highlight the application process for our 2021 COVID-19 Business Recovery Grant Program. We just got it approved by Council earlier this month, and so we're scrambling a bit to try to get everything figured out, but we're eager to get this program out to everybody. We know the businesses here in Elk Grove need the help, and we're eager to try to get this out to you guys. So with that, let's just go ahead and get started. So one thing I wanted to highlight that we launched during COVID is a business and employee resources page on the Elk Grove City website. Let me show you real quick what this page looks like, just so you can kind of follow along. And so here's what the page, we've changed information on this page over time as programs have been built, not just by us, but we try to keep information here for other SBA programs, state programs. So we try our best to keep this updated. Early on, it was a bit difficult because there's so many programs going out, but for now, this is where our program that I'm discussing today information is. And if you want, there's a link here. I'll be discussing these guidelines at length during the webinar today, but if you'd like to view these guidelines, otherwise, they're here on the website at this page. So with that, I'll just go back to my presentation so that we can continue with that part of it. We'll go into detail, as I mentioned, into the guidelines, so don't worry about that. Was a quick glance. We'll go into it here. Quick high-level information about the program. We've got $4 million that was approved by City Council for our small businesses. So that's what this program will have as funding. The CARES Act program that we had last year had about $750,000. So we have more money this time, hopefully, to give to more businesses. So the grant amounts will range from $500 to $15,000. I will certainly go into more detail as to which business is eligible for which amounts. A lot of content here, but I'll break it down bit by bit. So you got to be in the City of Elk Grove boundaries, your business, whether it's a home-based business or you have commercial space. We'd like you to be in the city boundaries to get assistance with our grant program. We'd also require that you be in good standing with the City of Elk Grove, meaning have a business license, make sure your certificate of occupancy, which is through our building department, is current, up to date, and you don't have any other issues potentially with code enforcement, zoning issues. We're happy to help you figure out if you're all good with that, so not a problem if you're unsure. Likely most businesses are compliant, so I don't know this is going to be a huge issue. And then not only with the city requirements, but any state or federal laws. If, let's say, you or even the county, I would say, if you have a restaurant, make sure the county is, you got your health department permit and all that is current. Anything with the state or federal, depending on what your business type might be. And this is for all business types, by the way. I'm going to go into more information as to each category that we created for the grant program. So this is a broad criteria for all business types. We set a metric of March 1st, 2020 for the business to be open. That was kind of a rough date in which we feel the pandemic started. You know, some could argue maybe it was in January, February. We thought, hey, if you were open as of March 2020, you were definitely trying to operate during the hardest moments of the pandemic through the last 18 months. We were also hoping to see that the idea of this program is to help businesses that have been negatively impacted by COVID. So we'd like to see a net revenue loss, but we're wanting to see this metric of net revenue loss of 25% for the calendar year 2020 compared to 2019. So what that means is January to December 2019, we feel was kind of the full year prior to the pandemic starting. So that should be a good snapshot of how your business was able to operate and the revenue it received at full operations. And then for the entire calendar, you will compare that 2019 number to the same months in 2020. So January to December of 2020, we'll look at that year. And the way we're going to do that is with your taxes. So you'll see here, business must submit tax returns to validate this. So we'll be asking for your 2019 business taxes and your 2020 taxes. And the information should be pretty easy to find there to see that you have a 25% year-over-year loss in revenue. Some businesses may have multiple locations in Elk Grove or multiple locations, one location in Elk Grove and other locations, whether it be Sacramento or even further, Stockton, not sure what your business type may be. For the purposes of this program, if you have a single business entity with multiple locations in Elk Grove, all that will be considered, we'll total that for one total revenue. So let's say you have a sewing shop and you've got 3 locations in Elk Grove and they're all called ABC Sewing. Then ABC Sewing for all 3 locations will total their revenue for all 3 locations, and that's how we'll evaluate the revenue. A different example would be, let's say you've got a sewing shop and you've got one in Sacramento, one in Elk Grove. We're just going to look at the Elk Grove locations to see how that worked. And I'll stop for questions a few times throughout the presentation here. I'm got the chat open. I'm trying to monitor that as well. So I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll try to work through those throughout the presentation, and we'll certainly have time at the end to answer more questions as they come up. And I guess with that might be a good point to pause. I don't quite see any questions coming through, but I can give it a second if people have a question. What I'll cover next, just to let you know, will be, as you see on the screen here, the 3 different categories we created for the program. And so I will go into more detail about the home-based, non-targeted, and targeted. So I'll just keep it moving. And like I said, there'll be plenty of time at the end for more questions. So no need to feel like you missed out on the opportunity to miss the question here. Let's see. Is net revenue, actually I see the questions, apologies. Is net revenue the same as gross revenue? No, and we're gonna need to know both numbers, as I'll go into in a bit here. So the gross would be, before your expenses. So the annual gross would be kind of your total income. And then the net is after expenses. And I will talk about which returns I have. I think I have an understanding, although I admit I am not a tax person and don't take my advice as the only, but I try to do a little digging to get some broad general information as to what business type you have and what type of taxes that will be. I'll go into that later in the presentation. So let's talk about the different criteria and eligibility for these 3 categories. Let's see. Okay, so home-based. We're saying home-based, we want you to be a small business that's home-based. And so the metrics for that is the business earned 3 million annual gross revenue or less in the calendar year 2019. I would imagine for a number of home businesses, that's pretty easy to achieve, but tough to say. Maybe people got a very profitable home-based business. Again, I just want to reiterate this point. I put it in each of the categories just to bring it home. We want to see that net revenue loss of at least 25%. The reason we said net revenue instead of gross is because, let's say last year, a number of businesses had to modify their operations to comply with county standards or state standards in terms of shutting down or adding cost of masks and hand sanitizer. And if you had a commercial business, you might have done pop-up space and create a patio. And so your revenue might have been the same, but you're spending a lot more money on those types of things. And so your net revenue would certainly be impacted, because your bottom line, having spent the money on those types of PPE and other modifications to your operations, your net revenue should paint that picture pretty well. So then the other thing we're saying, the same category is for non-targeted small business, but the way we qualify small business is 3 million annual gross revenue and 20 full-time equivalent employees or less. Let me talk about full-time equivalent for a second, just so everyone can get a little better picture of that. So let's say you have 40 part-time workers. You could translate that 40 part-time, which is about 1,040 hours or 20 hours a week, 1,040 hours a year, to be clear. 20 hours a week is a part-time employee. So that would convert to 20 full-time equivalent. And we're saying a full-time employee is the 2,080 hours a year and 40 hours a week, just rough estimates there. So we'd like to see that number for the Homebased be 20 or less. So then, oops, I think I skipped one, sorry. There we go. Non-targeted small business, again, that same qualifier, 3 million annual gross revenue or less in the calendar year 2019, because 2019 should paint that picture of what your operations were prior to the pandemic coming. Similarly, the 25% revenue loss year over year, we're comparing the year 2020, which is last year, the calendar year, January to December, to the calendar year in 2019, January to December 2019. Again, the 20 full-time equivalent, as I mentioned for the previous category, same here. I'm not able to hear. So I'm seeing in the chat, somebody's saying they can't hear. Is anybody else having that problem? I don't want to go on longer if people can't hear me. Okay, cool. I see a couple I can hear you, so I'm not sure what the audio might be. Issues, Raquel. Sorry about that. I think the closed captioning might be on. I tried to turn that feature on. I know it might be annoying to kind of read it, but that might be an alternate to follow along today. And of course, we can explain the program separately if you need assistance after the webinar is over. Okay, so then our final category, targeted business eligibility. We've given some examples here. I think this is a good representation of what should belong in each of these categories we've highlighted. There may be exceptions of something we didn't consider that's in these categories, but hospitality, including hotels, entertainment, including bowling alleys, movie theaters, performing arts, and event venues. Restaurants and food service. So not only is that restaurants, I would say that includes caterers, bars, coffee and tea shops. Again, there may be something there that isn't explicitly named that may be eligible, so we'll deal with those on a case-by-case basis. Personal services, we've included this category. Hair salons, nail salons, massage parlors, and fitness studios. I do think that dry cleaners fits in this category as well, so that's another personal service. Daycares, we're allowing daycares to be part of the target business eligibility, and that includes both adult and child daycares. Okay, so let's see. And same criteria as all the others, which is the net revenue loss of 25% year over year. For this category, we increased the full-time equivalent to 40 because we feel like 20 was going to be a little bit low for some of those business types. So as I mentioned before, if you have any questions on what that means for you and how many employees you might have, we'll have people that help you during the application process, certainly. Let me pause there because that was a lot of information, I think. Does anybody have questions It looks like there's a question from Jennifer, but it may be, I might save that one for the end. It's a little more complex. I kind of, I might get to that separately at the end. Any other questions on what I just covered for the eligibility for the different categories? Okay, I will go on. Okay, let's talk about the funding levels. So we decided to do flat grant amounts. This first bullet is for home-based, and then this table down here is relevant for the non-targeted small business. So the home-based small business is $500 flat grant amount, no matter how many employees or how many, what business type you had. It was kind of a generic category for home-based businesses. Then for non-targeted, there's some, I won't say flexibility, but there's some ranges here in the grant amounts. If we're going to base it, we looked at California Relief Grant and they used revenue brackets. We thought that was a good way to do it. So if your annual gross revenue, which is on your taxes, is in this first category, if it's 100,000 or less, basically, you'll get a grant amount of 3,500. If your annual revenue in 2019 was 100,000 to $1 million, you get $7,000. And if it's $1 million to $3 million, the grant that you'd be eligible for is 10,500. And again, this is for those non-targeted small business. So the ones that I didn't highlight categories for, pretty much all small business with 3 million revenue and 20 FTE or less is eligible for this structure of the grants. Then for the next one, the target business, the grant amounts are slightly higher. Similar income brackets, except we didn't put a cap on the max annual revenue because we were trying to target businesses that may not necessarily be small as we've previously defined it. We didn't put a limit at the top here, but so any business that has over $1 million in 2019 annual gross revenue, if you're one of those targeted businesses, your grant amount would be 15,000. And then kind of working backwards, I guess, 100,000 to $1 million, if that was your annual revenue in 2019, your grant amount would be 10,000. And then at the low level there, if it was basically under 100,000, your grant amount would be 5,000. So that's why that once you get those taxes, you should have already filed the 2019 and 2020. I think even if you did do an extension for 2020, I feel like most folks should have those filed. So hopefully if you worked with your whoever does your taxes, kept a record of that, and it should be pretty easy to supply that. Okay. Well, let me go back a second. Does anybody have questions on the grant amounts that I just described? So far, nothing. Okay, again, I'll answer questions at the end, so no problem if you don't quite have your question typed up as I move along. We'll cover it at the end, certainly. What can you use the grant funds for? Pretty flexible, a lot of stuff. General business operations, payroll expenses, supplier payments, rent, lease, or mortgage payments that are related to your business operations. If you're still needing to purchase PPE for your employees or your customers, that's definitely eligible expense. The state kind of doesn't have as much compliance requirements as they once did, nor the county, but I don't know if that's permanent. So if there's any compliance, supplies you need to purchase, or, those of you that might want to do an outdoor thing, although winter might be coming, so not sure that's feasible. Anyway, you can use the grant funds for all these. I would like to note, we're going to keep records of all the applications should the federal government want to audit our issuance of the funds. And so similarly, I would recommend that each of you, if you get a grant, keep a record of how you spent the grant funds that we might give you. So just so everybody's good, it would be nice to make sure you've got that record on hand. Okay, so when does the application open? I put it in red and bold here just so everyone's clear. It's not open now. We've still got about 12 days, I think. It's Monday after next, October 11th at 8 a.m. We're going to open the initial application period. Thankfully, we have a lot more time to issue the funds, so we're not on such a tight deadline this go around. So we have 30 days for this first round. The reason we chose 30 days was we didn't want to wait too long to issue the first round of grants for those businesses that are prepared and ready to submit their applications. So we chose 30 because it's far longer than the 7 days we had last time. So those of you trying to get in the initial application period, want to give you plenty of time to gather your materials, which is why we're doing the webinar today, which is why I'll record it and we'll have it available after the fact. This PowerPoint will also be available as a PDF on our website. So trying to give everybody every opportunity to get their questions answered in advance of the go live date so that you'll be prepared and ready to submit in this first application period. So that same website I showed you earlier, this elkgrovecity.org/COVID-19biz, that's where you'll be able to find a link to the application once we go live. I already talked about the 30 days. Now, if all the funds are not, if we don't have enough eligible businesses that qualify for the grants during this first round, we will certainly do subsequent rounds. I imagine it might take us to the end of this year to kind of button up this round, and then probably early next year, we might do the next round if needed. On the flip side, if we have a ton of subscribers and a lot of applications, we might have to do each category as kind of a lottery and pick to select the grantees, but we'll have to wait and see how many of you Elk Grove businesses are going to apply. We'll have to find out as we go. So, okay, let me talk about documents. In order to have everyone best prepared, we require you have a business license certificate, but if you don't have one, it's very easy to get one. So let me show you the site where that is. 1 second here. Okay, so over here is this other tab. The link there is in the PowerPoint, so feel free to use the link in the PowerPoint to get you here. If you already have a business license, but somehow it's out of date, you can renew here. If you don't have a business license, just apply right here. I can't remember what the fee is right now, but I think it's $20 or less, something like that. So it's pretty nominal fee. You can certainly come compliant before getting your application together. And then a W-9. We're trying to get all documentation from you at the very end, or at the very beginning rather, of the application period. So we're not going back and forth with you throughout the review period, so we can try to issue the payments as quickly as possible. So W-9, I also put a link here, but I do have a link on the, 1 second here. There we go. So this is what the W-9 looks like, and the link is there. So if you don't have one completed, it's page 2 is more informational. We just need the page 1. I guess this all the pages after number 1 are not necessary to submit. So page 1 is the relevant one. It's got your information here, and then there's a signature midway down here, sign here, signature. So we'd like for you to provide a completed version of that. You can get that ready if you don't have that already. Or if you haven't filled one out before. And then I mentioned the filed business tax return. So I want to make a disclaimer. I am not a CPA and a tax person. I tried to provide some blank forms as to my understanding here, but certainly work with a tax professional, whoever has prepared your taxes, to make sure and get the right form. There's links here to blank forms, but as I mentioned, you should probably have already filed your taxes Not sure if you can get your taxes done in a short turnaround to apply for this first round, but have to see how good your tax person is. So I'm not really going to go through the links here for each one of them. Like I said, I'm not the expert on the taxes. I'm just trying to get some information off the IRS, and these seem to be correct if this is your business type, and these are the forms that follow, but not a tax expert. And we wouldn't be able to assist you with filing your taxes. So if that's something that you need to get done, that's definitely not something the city can assist you with. Not sure who might be a best, sure H&R Block, I don't know. So then the other thing is we'll have some language on the application. So this won't be an after the fact thing or midway through the application process. We're trying to front load the application with all the information we need so that when you've submitted your application, unless we have questions, hopefully we have everything we need to review and potentially approve your grant. So we want to have you sign this certification. Is going to be more lengthy than this paragraph here, but just making you aware that you agree that you filled out the application true and correct, and that's all on the up and up. So, and then payment method, fortunately, we've been able to add electronic deposit to this program. I'm working with finance on the final details, but it seems likely that if you would like to do that version, we'll probably have on the application a another form, but it'll be the ACH, the automatic deposit form to fill out if you'd like your grant payment to be deposited electronically. We can still issue paper checks, so that's an option too. It's up to you how you'd like to handle that. And okay, so before we go on there, that was a lot of stuff. Is this a taxable grant? That's a good question. We're going to be capturing some of the questions that I might not have the answer to today, and we're going to be drafting an FAQ to put up on the program website as well. So I apologize, I don't quite have that answer offhand. I'm not sure how, when you do your taxes next year, if you got this grant funds, how that'll be treated. So I'll need to look into that. And then there was another question from Jennifer that I hadn't answered yet. I think I'm still going to save that to the end. Okay, so now I'd like to show you the application in its nearly complete form. The interface is exactly as you'll see it when the program goes live. I just might be adding that one form from finance like I mentioned. So let me show you. Okay. So here is the, this is how it will look. Not very colorful, but it is got all the relevant information here. There'll be a link to our COVID biz page again. If for whatever reason you go to the application, you forgot some of the guidelines, you can click this link, find the guidelines, read them. I strongly encourage you to get all your documents together in advance of starting the application. I'm pretty sure that you cannot start the application and then come back to it later. So you have to do it in one visit. So actually I'm going to do a test real quick just so you can kind of see some of the stuff that might show up. So let's say I'm a home-based business. I'm going to be a sole proprietorship and I'm located in Elk Grove. And I'm going to be let's see here. It's not too challenging to fill this out if you have all your information in front of you. Just want to make sure and show you something towards the bottom. I'm making up something. I hope Jane Smith doesn't get mad at me for making up a number. And so you should have a on the W-9 and your taxes, this information, this business employer identification number will be there. So it should be Oh, it doesn't like my phone number because it's fake. So you should have that information readily available if you have all your documents in front of you. I'm putting in, obviously,
Rachel,
yes.
we're not able to see the application.
Oh, you aren't. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Luis. Interesting. Still no?
Not yet. So we're just seeing a gray screen.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me pause or not stop sharing and then try to reshare. That might be the better way to go. What do you see now?
It's still showing the gray color.
That is so interesting. I wonder, I have the, if I, can you see the tax form now?
No.
Hmm.
We're just able to see your cursor kind of moving around.
That is so interesting. I wonder what my challenge is here. I had all these windows open on the same, these tabs are all open on the same window. So that is, maybe if I wait the stop share to load. Apologize, everyone. Technology. Try one more time. Did it go away altogether? Now my Zoom is acting up. Hmm. I can't hear anything.
Would you like me to try to just share the
Sure.
form?
I don't even know what my like controls went away entirely for Zoom.
Okay, so we are hearing you.
Okay.
And let me try to share the screen. Are you able to see it?
I think my Zoom, if everybody else, if somebody else can chime in as to if they can see it, that's the more important thing.
So I don't know if people are able to hear you.
I
Okay. Someone said can see now. Okay. Angie says I can hear you and see. Okay, so they're able to hear and see the screen that I shared.
Yeah, my Zoom is it would figure.
And getting off. Okay.
Yeah, I can't see. My Zoom is acting up, so if you could say the application.
So yeah, I'm sharing the application right now.
My Zoom is just went kaput on me. I can't see anything. So if you could talk about the application real quick.
Yeah, so the application is very simple. We ask for the general business information at the top. This is where you provide your physical address that we will need to verify. You identify whether you're, what type of business entity. Make sure you include the correct contact information, as we're going to be following up with you directly. We have the ability for you to upload your files right here on the page. So you'll see here that where we ask for the federal business tax returns, you can upload the file by selecting these buttons, and then also the completed W-9 form. So everything should be captured directly here on the application. Now, I do want to note that based on the type of business that you identify, we do have a selection down here. So for example, if you're home-based, it will provide you with additional information questions specific to the home-based business. At the same time, if you're not a targeted small business, it'll have questions specific to that. And then if you're a targeted business, it'll have a different set of questions asking what type of business do you operate. And keep in mind that if you don't complete all the information that's required here, it will not allow you to go on to the next page.
Perfect.
So I'll stop sharing and see if you can pull back the PowerPoint.
Well, it's like the controls for Zoom just disappeared entirely, which is a bummer.
Okay.
I don't know what is going on. There's a window that's like hovering over my other window and I can't get to it, which is unfortunate. To be honest, let's just kind of roll with it. As I mentioned, we're nearly done. So this was really to the time to wrap it up, but I did want to mention the last slide that I am not seeming to be able to share right now, but is our Capital Region Small Business Development Center is available to help with businesses that need assistance with, maybe you're not sure where on your taxes that you, where's that revenue number? How do I know if I qualify? We're going to send all this information in our application to the Small Business Development Center. They have a number of advisors that are on hand and willing to help. Not that the city can't help, certainly Luis and I will be on hand to help and answer questions. So we're available as well. I know the Elk Grove Chamber's on the line, so I'm sure they'll be able to assist as well. And then if you happen to, maybe English isn't the language that you speak primarily and you need assistance, we do have language translation services available. And the SBDC does offer those language translation services for Spanish, Mandarin, or Punjabi. And so they'll have advisors available to assist a business fill out the application that way, or answer questions if you have questions about the application.
And I just put up the
okay,
slide,
perfect.
so
Thank you.
hopefully people can see it. There's a contact information for the Capital Region Small Business Development Center, the information about the language translation, and then I also do see a couple of questions. So Rachel, I can help you kind of go through those as we continue.
Teamwork, that's what it's all about. I'm glad we were able to pivot. So then the city does have a vendor, a contractor that provides language translation services, and I believe it's a couple hundred languages. So if for whatever reason SBDC can't handle your request in terms of if you speak a language other than Spanish, Mandarin, or Punjabi, then you can certainly call Luis or myself. We've got our main line on the screen there, the 916-627-3338. And then our inbox that Luis and I both manage, the econdev@elkgrovecity.org. So if needed, if it's going to be a lengthy discussion, let's say to actually assist you with the entire application, we'd probably want to coordinate a time so we can choose a translator that's available in the preferred language. Luis or myself can definitely join, and we can get as many questions answered as possible to make sure the business gets the assistance they need. So those are kind of the ways in which you can get assistance. If you have any questions about it, yep, go ahead to the next one. That's perfect. That part is popping up, but I still can't share. So I know that was a lot of information. We're really excited to launch this program on October 11th. We're eager to get this money out to Elk Grove businesses that have been hurting because of the pandemic. So with that, I will conclude the presentation with our curveball. Wouldn't be a good webinar without a curveball, right? So Luis, maybe you can manage some of the questions and we'll see if we can answer as many as possible.
Yes, so there's a question about how does someone get the access to this presentation?
So we're gonna, this has been recorded with all the glitches and all, and this will be on our program or the COVID-19 Biz website. We'll have a link to this video recording. We will also have this PowerPoint in PDF format on the website as well. I would imagine we can get that up by Friday. If today's Wednesday, I think that should be easy enough for us to get up by Friday so that you guys can review and see what other questions you might have after getting more information.
Then we have another question about how will you be communicating? Is it primarily email similar to the California grant?
I think so. So as I mentioned, when we get your information, we're trying to front load the application so that we get as much information from you in that first submission so that we're not having to go back and forth with emails and whatnot. But if we have any questions, we'll certainly reach out to you. If not, we're definitely going to send a confirmation email that we've got your application, and we'll probably begin reviewing a midway through, but we'll not make any awards until the application period closes. We want to make sure to see how many applications we receive, and if we're going to need to do that lottery, or if we're going to be able to just award all the eligible business in one sitting. So I would expect we'll certainly do a confirmation that we received your application, and then more details will probably come later in that 30-day application period, closer to November 9th.
Okay, and then we do have a question about the eligibility. In this example, it's a business that opened in February 2020. So, obviously they won't have the 2019 taxes to compare.
Yeah, we had given that some thought. And so I think what we'll that's why I asked in the application, there's a question, when did you open your business? So I would say go ahead and submit and we'll review that on a case-by-case basis. And so we might have to work with you outside what I described today to kind of just get to where we can determine if you're eligible. But I would say go ahead and submit. We've got the field in the application that says you can tell us when you opened up, and we'll kind of take it from there. But I don't know if we have a clear one size fits all answer. We're kind of do that on a case-by-case basis.
And there's another kind of general question. The application is not on a first come, first served basis, right?
Correct. Nope. So if you submit in the first week or the last week, you get the same treatment. That's why I'm going to wait for the 30-day application period to close before we make any awards. So there's no penalty. If someone submits on the very last day, November 9th, you're still good.
Okay, I think we've answered what came in through the chat. If I've missed
there was one, can you see the Q&A button?
Yeah, let me check that out.
it still went black on my side, so I can't review that, but I think it was Jennifer that might have had a question.
Oh yeah, so I own a home healthcare agency, filed my license in 2018, and have been paying rent since February 2018. I did not generate income until June 2021.
Mm.
So do I qualify? So it seems like it's a business that has been in existence since 2018, but didn't generate income until
Yeah,
this year.
I guess I would put that in the let's handle that on a case by case basis. Because you're right, there's no revenue even in 2020 to compare. So I'm not sure how we'd tackle that. We're so eager to try to get the program on the streets and get it approved by council. We didn't work through every what if scenario, but I know we want to be flexible and understand everybody's situation and then evaluate it one at a time.
Yeah, so I think that covers all. I mean, there's another one that's kind of very specific, so we can handle that one offline.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Well, I apologize everyone for the glitch there at the end with trying to show the application, but I'm glad I had my partner Luis here to fill in and take over for a minute. We are going to actually be, as a side note, we're going to be at the Neighborhood Market in October for each of the 4 weeks in October. So we're going to have a flyer about this program as well as a few other things that we're working on. So if you see us out there, feel free to stop by, chat with us. We can give you more information there. The first day we'll be at the market is October 7th, which is before our go live date of October 11th, the following Monday. So that'll be next week, our first week at the market. It should be fun. And like I said, we've got our information on our website if you need to contact us, and the guidelines will be up there right now if you want to look at it more thorough. We'll have this information up by the end of this week, I'm pretty sure. With that, I guess we didn't need the full hour and a half, but better carve out more time than less, and look forward to working with you guys and having a successful program. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week and a good morning, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.